23 away from 8, and in studio with us we have Christopher Luxon, the Prime Minister. Chris, hello.
G'day, how are you?
Well,
congratulations to you, first and foremost.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I feel like you're more used to what's happening right now than I am, so do you want to take charge?
You're doing a great job.
I couldn't even figure out your button just then. Did you notice that? I was like, oh,
No,
anyway.
I didn't notice it. I don't know. So you just fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
I built a whole career on that.
There comes the honesty. We're already getting the good stuff out of you. Chris, thanks for coming in. Got to talk about the Dunedin Hospital. Why can you guys not find $1.1 billion just to get these guys what they want?
Yeah, look, this is a project. It's frustrating for people, and I get it. It's frustrating for us as a new government inheriting the project. It started off at $1.2 billion. It ended up going up to 1.6. We put another $300 million into it to 1.9, and then we've got a latest review suggesting it's going to be approaching $3 billion, which would be, without doubt, the most expensive hospital in the history of the Southern Hemisphere. So the challenge we've got is that we are very committed to building a new hospital in Dunedin, don't get me wrong, but we've got to do it within the $1.9 billion fiscal envelope. Otherwise, that means that we can't do Whangarei, Tauranga, Palmerston North, Nelson, other regional hospitals where we're going to have to deal with.
Problem is, at the election, you guys had a crack at the Labor Party for dicking around on this, and that you were going to be able
it took
to
6 years and did nothing, right? So
aren't you in the same position now?
Well, we're taking the advice really quickly on the two options that we've got, which is essentially stage at the old site or scale back at the new site. But we will deliver a new hospital, but we have to do it within the $1.9 billion. And what we've seen is cost creep and scope creep from a Labor government, whether it's been ferries or whether it's been school buildings and now the hospital.
How much smaller is it going to be?
That'll be up to the advice that we can see. Like as I said, Shane Reddy and Chris Bishop are all over it. They've asked for urgent advice on the two options. As I said, whether it's staged or whether it's scaled back, we have to make those choices.
See, the difficulty I think you guys have got is that you are making some choices about what to spend money on, and it's all kinds of other stuff. It's roads, it's tobacco tax cuts, it's stuff for landlords. And when it comes to something that Kiwis fundamentally care about, which is health,
I disagree. We put almost $30 billion a year into health. We put $16 or $17 billion extra in, the most spent ever going into health. So there's plenty of money in health. We're not managing infrastructure projects across the country, whether it's hospitals, whether it's schools, whether it's ferries, well at all. That's been a legacy. We've got to get better at that, and we've got to manage the capital spending that we've got. So I just say to you, there's plenty of money going in.
There's plenty of money going into roads, but yet you can find $2 billion for a road in Wellington.
Well, we've got a lot to do in terms of building out that infrastructure. Hospital infrastructure is a part of that. We've also got good money coming in, but you just can't have a project go from 1.2 billion. When it started, it would have been good if it had actually been built in the last 6 years. It would have been cheaper than what it would have been now. But you can't have it heading out to $3 billion. And even at 1.9, it'll be amongst one of the most expensive hospitals.
Are you sure the contractor's not taking the mickey here?
Well, that's what the review will identify, right? It's just what options have we got?
Are you looking into that specifically?
We're looking into all of that. And there's bigger questions, I think, fundamentally around how we deliver infrastructure in government. Do we think the Ministry of Education is the best place to make decisions about school buildings? We had 450 school projects from memory that were underfunded to the tune of a couple of $1 billion. And
what are you talking about, like a Ministry of Works or something?
Well, just, is there a different way of actually managing infrastructure where you've got real competency, real expertise? Because in fairness, running a health system, running an education system is often different from managing infrastructure and asset management.
Did you see Treasury's warning last week?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. How are you going to get us out of the structural deficit?
Well, I just say we have to get out of the structural deficit. We've been on a massive binge and we have to have a little bit of a diet to get the books back in order because at the moment we're actually borrowing more than we're spending.
Well, how are you going to do it?
And we're spending more than we're getting in. So we've got to get back to financial discipline, which is why we just had the chat on the Dunedin Hospital because, you say, right, let the $1.1 billion go through, but it's $1.1 billion there. It's $2 billion on ferries. It's $2 billion on school buildings. We've got to have some financial discipline around that. We've got to make sure that we then set up for growth. That's what we're focused on right now because we've got spending sort of getting gripped up. We'll continue to do that daily practice. That's hard work going forward. We know we've got some limited allowances, but we've got to question the spends that we've already got going on and make sure they're getting returns. We've got inflation coming down. We've got interest rates coming down. We've got business confidence rising, but we need to see the economy grow.
But you're going to have to cut as well, aren't you? And I mean, Dominic Stevens was saying last week that the level of cuts that you will have to do are unprecedented in New Zealand history.
Yeah, but possible. We can do a lot more with less, and as we've seen, there's been a lot of dumb and wasteful spending go on across the system for the last 6 years.
Are we going to get a mother of all budgets type scenario potentially in 25, 26?
I think you've seen our approach, which is that we know we've got to deliver a surplus. We know it'll be 10 years, I think, by the time we get it back into book, and we know we've got to get the books in order. You cannot, whether you're a family or
10 years from now?
No, 10 years. It'll be 10 years that we would have had a deficit, if before we get there. But we're doing it in a really sensible, balanced kind of way, and so we're not throwing the country into hard austerity. What we're doing is balancing, as you've seen, tax relief for low and middle income workers. Yes, reprioritise 23 billion of savings within government spending, get it out of the bureaucracy, get it to the frontline services. So we're working through in a very balanced, sort of considered kind of way. But the point is, if you're a family with a budget, you can't keep spending more than you earn. If you're a business, you can't do the same, and government's having to do the same thing.
Hey, are you surprised by the level of resistance to sending the public servants back to work?
No, not really. But
you were expecting this?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. People may not like it, but the point is that's what's going to happen. We want people back in the office. We want a very effective public service. We want it firing on all cylinders, whether you lead large corporates or whether you lead large government employees. The reality is you can maintain a culture for a period of time virtually, but you need people in the office.
But when are you going to give me my minimum days they have to be back? That's what I want.
Well, we want the starting point needs to be you're in the office, and then if you have formal arrangements, that's formally agreed. It's not an entitlement.
So are you saying to me right now it's 5 days in the office unless you've got some permission not to be there?
Yep, correct.
So it's a minimum of 5.
Well, it's a starting. We want everyone in the office. That's the starter. It's not an entitlement that you just get to work from home. And
this is great, Chris. Why don't you just say this on the day? 5 days in the office. There you go.
Well, no, we said we want people in the office, and if you want to make alternative arrangements, you've got to do that in a formal way. But the point we're trying to make here is that we want, the public service, we've got some great public servants, but we've got a lot that we've got to get sorted in this country, and therefore if that, and here's the research, and the evidence I've seen is that young people, for example, who are working from home are not getting coaching or feedback or development opportunities. As a result, when you go look at career progression of those that work in the office versus those that work from home, there's all those sort of benefits. Better communication. A lot of the problems we've got now are across ministries. We're dealing with people who are stuck in emergency housing, but school attendance issues with, that's the same cohort. We need a cross-government response to those sorts of issues. So I'm just saying, look, you've got to come back to the office. That's where we are. That's not inconsistent with what other governments and organisations are doing.
Yeah.
And let's get into it.
You moved into Premier House yet?
Moved in on the weekend.
Is
finally.
It cold?
Well,
go be honest. It's drafty and ancient.
Well, we finally managed to get new paint, new curtains, and new carpet. That's what the work has been over the last 6 months in part of the house, it was last done when Jim Bolger was there in 1990.
Yes.
So the carpet had been stretched, I think, 7 times, pretty threadbare, but we managed to get that approved to get that spent.
And are you cold?
I've got a nice jumper. It's all good.
Are you cranking the heater all night?
I got a good jumper.
Jeez, honestly.
It's all good. But it's
Dude, get some silicone around those windows. You got to sort that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a working day on the weekend and sort of got some of the tools out, and we'll carry on sorting some things out. But look, it's a privilege to be Prime Minister of New Zealand, and it's a privilege to live in Premier House. I
love that you're putting a positive spin on this. It's so utterly transparent what you're doing right now. How do you feel about the fact that we're obsessed with how much money you've made on your rental property and your
look,
apartment?
I don't know how to explain it any other way, which is, I came to politics 4 years ago. I bought an apartment in October 2020. The election was 2020. I then became Prime Minister. I was normally Prime Ministers would sell their apartment, move into Premier House. I couldn't because there was basic maintenance needs to be done. As I said, paint, curtains, carpet, some of it, and that's been done. Now I'm moving in, and I don't need the apartment, so I'm selling it. So that's what John Key did when he became Prime Minister.
And
sold his apartment.
How do you feel about the fact that it was all over the TV news last night? How much you made?
Well, I've come to expect that. Which is
it a bit weird?
I can't. I mean, the bottom line, as I said right from the beginning of my first day in politics, I'm a kid whose parents left school at 16. I went to university, did well in the world, successful, get it, right? And I've chosen to come to politics because I want to add back to New Zealand. So that's my reason for it. But if we're going to criticise people for being successful, and let's be clear, I'm wealthy, I'm sorted.
Have you seen what Jacinda's doing, Chris? After this, you can go on the speaking circuit.
No, look,
you can make as much in one gig speaking as you do on your property.
Look, that won't be my focus. There's a lot of other things to do post politics, but right now I am absolutely determined. We have a great future. We've got a great potential in this joint, and we just got to get it realised.
You've got a structural deficit to fix first. Hey, Chris, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. That's Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister. It's 13 away from 8. Trade Depot.